morning. Welcome to worship here at Elizabethtown Baptist Church. And let me say thank you for listening to us today, whenever that might be, whether that's on Sunday morning or the middle of the week, and wherever it is you might be this morning, or whenever that is, whether you're in your kitchen having breakfast or in your dining room or sitting on your couch, and whoever it is you may be, no matter what your background may be, no matter what you've gone through in life, no matter if you're the richest person or the poorest person, wherever, whoever, whenever it is, we are just thankful to have you there. And I want you to know that. Thank you for joining us for worship this morning or this afternoon or this evening. Today we're going to talk about, and you've heard me say this word a whole lot over the course of the last 6 months, you've heard me talk about relationships and how important it is for us as Christians to have a relationship with the world. But in talking about relationships, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the most important thing in relationships, and you guys know what I'm talking about. The most important thing in any relationship is money. No, it's not money. That's not true at all. The most important thing in any relationship is communication. Communication, communication, communication. That is vital to any strong relationship. Now, as you've heard me say, that is exactly what Christians are called to have with the world. We're called to have not only a relationship with the world, but we are called to have a love relationship with the world. And you say, well, Pastor Rudy, how do you know this? Well, I know this because the Bible tells us over and over again. Jesus says, hey, by this all people will know that you're my disciples if you what? Have love one for another. Or it says this, hey, love your neighbor, there's that word again, as you love yourself. Or even in the epistles, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, if you do all these great things, and I'm paraphrasing here, if you do all these great things, but you don't have love, basically you're just making a lot of noise. Love is vital in our walk as Christians, and a love relationship with this world, with people in this world, is vital as Christians. So, we're called to have a relationship, and the most important thing in a relationship, you heard me say it just a few minutes ago, communication. That's true for the Christians as well. It's true for how we interact with the world as well. We've got to communicate. We've got to tell people about Jesus Christ. We've got to go out there and engage the world, talk to them, communicate in some way about what Jesus has done in our lives, about how important he is to their lives, about how important he is to the world around us, about how important Jesus is to everything that we do and that we say. We've got to tell the world about that. Now, I know we've got 100 different excuses as to why we don't want to tell the world. Here's the thing. We've still got to tell them. Well, Pastor Rudy, I don't want to tell them. Let me ask you this question. You ever been in love? Yeah, some of you. Or maybe it wasn't love. Maybe you just had this huge crush on someone. And you wanted to talk to this person, you wanted to talk to this guy or this girl, but you were so nervous about it. You just didn't want to go out there. You didn't want to make a fool of yourself. You didn't want to embarrass yourself. But you know what? Every time you saw this girl, you just want to talk to him. I'll just speak for me. Every time you saw this girl, you just want to talk to him. But you were afraid again you were going to fumble all over your words. But you wanted it so badly that you took the risk. And you went out there and you embarrassed yourself maybe. You said all the wrong things. You said all the words that you wanted to say came out all wrong. But they said yes. They said, sure, I'll go out with you. Absolutely. It was the effort that mattered. Let me tell you something, Christian. It's the same thing with engaging the world. Do we have to love the world? I think you know the answer to that question. When you love something, are you going to try to engage it? Absolutely. And it's the same thing as a Christian sometimes. Maybe you're nervous. Maybe you feel like you're not good at it. Maybe you feel like, listen, I'm just going to say all the wrong things. I'm going to mess up. It's okay. Because you love them. Because you want to have that relationship with them. You want to reach out to them. And so what do? You take the risk. You go out there and you do it. You say, well, Pastor Rudy, I don't know what to say. Or maybe it's just not the right time. You know how you make excuses. Well, I don't want to ask him out now. Maybe I'll ask him out tomorrow. I don't want to talk to him now. Maybe I'll talk to him tomorrow. I was watching this interview with Joyce Meyer the other day. And this lady asked Joyce Meyer, she said, how did you know that you were ready to lead a Bible study? How did you know that you were ready to talk to other people about Jesus Christ? How did you know, basically, and this is what she said word for word, she said, how much should my soul mature? This is the lady asking the question. How much should my soul mature before I answer the call, is what she said. This was Joyce's response. And I have to admit, it wasn't what I expected. Joyce's response she said, when I started teaching, I was blowing smoke in everybody's face and sitting around in short shorts. Now, she did say that she wasn't encouraging, this was Joyce Meyer, she said she wasn't encouraging that kind of behavior during a Bible study, but she said, listen, when I first started, I was blowing smoke and I was just puffing away, using her words. She says I was just puffing away on a cigarette and I was talking to people in short shorts. I think that's what stuck with me. Is that Joyce Myers didn't wait, and some of you probably know who Joyce Myers is. She didn't wait until she was perfect. She didn't wait until she had it all together. She just went at it because God opened a door for her. It's the same thing with you. I've heard people give 100 different excuses as to why they don't want to witness. I've heard people give 100 different excuses as to why they don't want to lead a Bible study. I've heard people give 100 excuses as to why they don't want to teach Sunday school. Here's the thing, friend. Sometimes you're going to fumble all over your words. But you're going to do it because you love people. You're going to do it because that's what God's called you to do. Now, I will tell you that it is important that you know what to say. You don't have to know everything, but you do have to do the work. I mean, that's what 1 Peter 3:15 says, right? But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. 1 Peter 3:15, and it says this, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. Always be prepared. Always be ready, some translations say, to give an answer. This whole idea of being prepared means that you are probably going to do some work. Now, earlier I talked about the challenges of asking that girl or guy out on the first time. And again, as I was doing some research on this, I realized that some people really have some bad pickup lines. They have some bad pickup lines. I came across this website called Mantelligence, and it has the top 5, actually the top 8 worst pickup lines. I'm just going to read a few of them. The first one was, and this is you can imagine a guy going up to a girl and saying this, is your name Google because you have everything I've been searching for? I don't know. How about this one? Have you ever been arrested? It must be illegal to look that good. Which I think is a problem if they actually have been arrested, but that's a different story. Or number 3, I've lost that loving feeling. Maybe you can help me find it. Or this one, number 4, if you were a transformer, you'd be Optimus Fine. I may have said that wrong. Number 5, it's handy that I have my library card because I'm totally checking you out. Or number 6, which was the one that I find most interesting, if women were boogers, I'd pick you first. How? I don't know. But maybe that's why, I don't even know if I delivered those right. Maybe that's why I don't date. Or maybe it's because I always open up with number 6, you know. The point is that when people are trying to ask someone out, there are all these websites, there are all these resources, there are all these books on how to do that. Here's the work part. Do you know that when it comes to talking to someone about Jesus Christ, and I'm not talking about someone that you have to build a brand new relationship with. I'm talking about a friend that you've known for years. I'm talking about a family member. Did you know this? That when it comes to talking to someone about Jesus Christ, there are also hundreds of websites about that. There are dozens of books about that. There are countless, literally thousands of sermons and talks about how to talk to someone about Jesus Christ, about how to share your faith. Here's the problem. Most people don't do the work. I'm asking you to do the work. Let me just say that that same thing is true for almost every relationship. It could be friends, it could be marriages, it could be sons and daughters, it could be children and grandchildren. Some people just don't do the work. And so relationships fail or relationships aren't healthy. But if you do the work, those relationships grow. Friend, when it comes to introducing someone to Jesus Christ, when it comes to reaching this world for Jesus Christ, when it comes to having that relationship and wanting to know how to communicate in that relationship, do the work. Do the research. Now, I know you're saying, who should do this? Who do I have to? Who is responsible for all this work? Who's responsible for all this relationship building? Who's responsible for all this outreach? Deep in your heart, you know the answer to that question. I've said this 100 times before as well. We all are. Every professed Christian. But there's some statistics out there. I was reading this article the other day, and in the article it referenced this a book, Street Level Evangelism, Where is the Space for the Local Evangelist? And it's written by Michael Parrott. And this is what that book says. It says, 95% of all Christians have never won a soul to Jesus Christ. I want you to hear, Christian, I want you to hear this. 95% of all Christians have never won a soul to Jesus Christ. 80% of all Christians do not consistently witness for Christ. Less than 2% are involved in a ministry of evangelism right now. 71% do not give toward the financing of the Great Commission. So I got to ask you, which category are you in? Now, I know that you're saying, well, Pastor Rudy, you've preached a sermon before. I've preached a sermon for the last 15 years. But these statistics are still the same. I've preached a sermon in churches over and over again. I've preached a sermon around the world. But these statistics are still the same. The resources are out there. The people are out there. You are already in those relationships. You may lack the courage. You may even lack the know-how. You may feel like this isn't the time. But these statistics are still the same. Which means that we have a church universal, that's not engaging actively in evangelism. Let's change these statistics. You say, Pastor Rudy, you've been preaching this for a long time and nobody's done anything. You know what? If 1,000 people hear this sermon and only one person does something, I'm okay with that. I still want us to change these statistics. And I still want us to build a relationship with this world. And I still want us to communicate the gospel to every person. Because that's what we're called to do. Amen. So today you've heard us say a lot about relationships, and you also, if you were paying attention, heard me talk about the most important element in a relationship, and that's communication. Friend, I want us to build a relationship with this world, and I want us to build relationships with other people. Some of you are already in these relationships. Your best friend, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. You're already in these relationships where people need Jesus. Now it's time to take that step of communicating Jesus to them. I know it won't be easy all the time, but I want you to know two things. One, that's what we're called to do. And two, with the power of the Holy Spirit working through you, you're never doing it alone. If you're here today, or if you're listening to this service today, and you've never experienced Jesus Christ, let me talk to you about Jesus and what he's done for me and what he can do for you. And if you're here today and you've heard about Jesus, or you're listening today and you know all about Jesus because you've been a Christian for so long, then accept this challenge and go and talk to someone else about what Jesus has done for you. Hope to see you soon.